Welcome to this presentation of the British Journal of Management. My name is Douglas Cumming. I've been editor-in-chief of BJM since January 2020, following the excellent work of Pawan Budwar and Jeff Wood, amongst other people representing the Society, the British Academy of Management, the excellent editorial team, associate editors, editorial board members, reviewers, and authors. And so let me tell you about BJM, which has been published since 1990. BJM has a terrific impact factor, currently at 6.567, up almost a doubling from the prior year. We have an ABS ranking of 4, an ABDC ranking of A. Currently one editor-in-chief, but we're likely to add 1 or 2 more over the coming months. 13 associate editors, 111 editorial board members from 27 countries. We publish 4 issues a year, approximately 17 papers per issue. The journal is currently available in over 5,600 institutions globally, and in 2020, downloads were almost at 500,000. So the journal is getting immense attention internationally. We have a really terrific managing editor, Emma Mistent, who can be reached at the email below. Emma is super helpful for our editors, associate editors, reviewers, and authors alike, a really terrific person that keeps everything running very smoothly at BJM. I am very fortunate to represent the Society, BAM, and the journal in this job. I believe I was a suitable fit for the job insofar as I'm interdisciplinary. So while my home base is in the finance and entrepreneurship fields, I also publish papers on innovation, HRM, international business, law, ethics, and fraud. I also have a degree in law, Mox PhD, of course, and general strategy papers in management. I publish in general management journals like AMJ, AMP, BJM, as well as finance journals like JFE and RFS, international business journals like JIBS, human resource journals like HRMG, and innovation and entrepreneurship journals. The interdisciplinary nature of my work fits with the interdisciplinary nature of work published in BJM, as BJM publishes papers in all fields of management. We have a really terrific associate editor team that I feel extremely fortunate to work with that cover all functional areas of management, including Stephen Brammer from Bath, Anna Chris Acosta from Bradford, Kevin Daniels from Norwich Business School, Heiner from Alliance Manchester Business School, Mark Gurgen from IE Business School, Sophia Johan from Florida Atlantic University, Gia Liu from Salford, Thanos Papadopoulos from Kent, Emanuela from Vienna, Shuang Ren from Deakin, Martina from Essex, Pei Sun from Alliance Manchester Business School, and George Freines from Open University. All these editors are super responsive. They seek terrific reviewers, provide detailed feedback to authors, and importantly, they handle an equal number of papers as the editors do. Currently, we are allocating papers across everybody as equally as possible, depending on the specialism of the paper that's being submitted and the area of focus of the particular associate editor to match everybody in the most appropriate way. We do publish papers in all areas of management, as I said, both theoretical and empirical papers, interdisciplinary work. We encourage papers from all functional areas and from around the globe. We do not have any particular regional preference. We have an online submission system that's very easy to work with. It's Manuscript Central. Last year we processed 720 papers, and it's looking like so far in 2021 we'll be exceeding that amount. We do desk reject papers if they don't have a good fit, as I'll explain in a few slides henceforth. Our acceptance rate is around 10%, and papers literally come from around the world, perhaps slightly more concentrated in Europe, but lots of papers from Asia, North America, Australia, and other countries around the world. We publish 3 main types of papers: original papers, both theory and empirical, special issue papers, as well as methodological corner papers. We do not publish review papers. That's the only type of paper that we do not consider, because we have a sister journal through the British Academy of Management named the International Journal of Management Reviews, or IJMR for short. IJMR has a huge impact factor, really terrific editorial team, and if you do have a review paper, please do consider IJMR. At BJM, we publish theory papers that are novel, very important to develop new ideas, advancing the boundaries of our understanding by developing new theory. It can often be interdisciplinary as a way to develop new theory. So I encourage you to think about that, also given the interdisciplinary focus of BJM. It's important to reference prior work, and believe me, editors do check. So we go to Google Scholar to see if other work has been referenced properly. So please make sure that you consider that. Papers can also have an empirical contribution. The data can be secondary sources. So using most recent years and a full history of data is really good. They give the most convincing and recent evidence. If the data are really out of date, that signals something bad about the paper. And if possible, we encourage multi-country studies if that's available from the data vendor or public source that you've gotten it from. Narrowing the data may be appropriate in some contexts, but if not, then consider a broader sample. Primary data, where you survey or interview methods, for example, first thing to consider is to make sure it's representative of the population. So if there's some element of the population that you know about in your survey, you can do comparisons of means and medians tests to establish representativeness, and that makes your paper much more convincing. Importantly, you need to make sure that your empirical work is replicable. If other scholars try to replicate and find different results, or if there is insufficient detail to allow people to replicate your work, then that's terrible for both you and the journal, and that's not something that we want to go ahead with. Things have to be explained in full for others to replicate it. Methodological papers are a very important part of the journal, very helpful for other scholars in improving their methods used in their own work, and indeed they get adopted in a variety of different contexts. Examples of successful methodological papers BJM has published includes measures on Tobin's Q and empirical work, case studies to build theory, as well as visual methods for qualitative network research. So please take a look at those, and if you have your own methodological contribution, then we would definitely like to hear from you. We offer a number of special issues. We have, on timely topics, for example, COVID. We in honor of the sad passing of a terrific scholar, Mike Wright, that contributed to BJM and BAM. We did an entrepreneurial finance special issue recently. Other special issues on worker voice, energy transitions, corporate governance in extreme institutional environments. We do have a few calls for papers that are currently open but soon to close. If you have your own special issue that you'd like to propose, we encourage you to do that. We have an annual competition that's competitively ranked by a team, and that's an advertisement for that is going to come out shortly. And the deadline is always, by tradition, in the early December of each year. So please do think about those, submitting a proposal, and include a proposed call for papers, the guest editorial team. It's good to have a broad team with experienced editors. When a paper comes into BJM, it first is submitted through Manuscript Central, and then Emma Mistent, the managing editor, checks the paper for appropriate word length, removes identifiers and the like, and if it passes that stage, then it goes to the editor. The editor might desk reject the paper if it doesn't have a proper fit with the journal, if there's some other concern about novelty, incomplete or out of date or inappropriate data, or a match between the data and the theory, for example, then those things might lead to a desk reject. If it gets past that stage, then either the editor handles the paper or transfers it to one of the associate editors if the associate editors have more expertise in the particular topic area. We seek reviewers very quickly, seek 3 reviewers. They each have 30 days to give a reply. Our reviewers are normally extremely responsive, only very, very occasionally will they slip past that 30-day mark because we're on top of them, and seek great reviewers. The decision comes shortly after those reviews come in. So hopefully 1 to 2 weeks thereafter, and a decision letter is issued to the authors. And those decision letters are either an R&R or a reject. After hopefully convergence on a round or two, then we can proceed to publishing the paper. If a paper is rejected, possibly due to weak theory, too narrow focus, overly prescriptive, poor relevance to management research, if the contribution is poor methodologically, if they're out-of-date references or incomplete references, and again, review papers. We don't publish review papers, those go to IJMR. Published papers have great theoretical contributions. They fit with the journal for a wide readership in all disciplines of management. They're addressing important, rich research questions, not overly descriptive, good evidence of the and knowledge of the relevant literatures, and there must be a really great connection between theory and data. If the paper isn't robust to different methods or doesn't consider alternative explanations properly, those types of things could lead to rejection. BGM is published by Wiley. Wiley offers an open access option, and you should see if your university is a partner with that important process. Sometimes this is extremely useful for our funding mandates. You can find BGM through this email, reach Emma Mistent. Please feel free to contact either myself or any of our excellent associate editors to find more about the journal. The website is at the Wiley page, the paper submission at Manuscript Central. We also maintain a LinkedIn account for news, events, as well as Twitter for updates with the journal. Again, I'm really indebted to Emma Mistent, our managing editor, who's so involved with the journal, all of the excellent associate editors, reviewers, authors, and the broader community through BAM and the special interest groups, and the excellent and diligent administrative and leadership staff at the British Academy of Management generally, all helps us to have a properly functioning, well-governed journal. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to this presentation about the International Journal of Management Reviews, which, as I'm sure many of you will already know, is one of the official journals of the British Academy of Management. I just want to start, I will introduce myself more fully in a minute, but I just want to start by giving you some of the key factors about IJMR, which is why I hope you're interested in submitting to us and publishing with us. As you can see, we've got some pretty good statistics here. We are going from strength to strength as a journal, and in particular, I think our impact factor speaks for the quality and the approach, the appeal of the journal across a wide range of both readers and authors. We've also got some very impressive ISI rankings. We're 5 in both business and management. So I hope those are all good reasons why you are interested in the journal, and I hope that the information that I'm going to give you today will reinforce your interest in submitting a paper to us. So first of all, as I said, I would introduce myself more fully. I am one of the 3 co-editors-in-chief for the journal. That's recently gone up from 2, the reason being that we are getting a lot more submissions than we've had in the past, and that we have lots of other plans to expand and to enhance the appeal of the journal. So that workload means that in order to do that properly, we need 3 of us. So Dermot Breslin has been an editor-in-chief for the journal for some time, and he is very much our leader at the moment. I came on board a few months ago, and then a couple of months after me, Jamie Callahan joined us as well. So between the 3 of us, we've got a very good spread of topic areas and of interests. We also cover different methodologies, so we can really address whatever kinds of reviews and kinds of topic areas come to the journal. The other important name there, although we haven't got a photograph of her, is Emma Mistent, who is our managing editor. She really makes sure that everything runs smoothly, both from our side and from yours, and she is an important contact if ever there's any information you need, any problems that you've got, or just if you need advice and you can't instantly get in touch with one of us. I think if there is only one slide that you take away with you from this presentation, this is probably the slide that's going to have the most important information on it. It's about our aims and scope. And this really does give you the key information about what we're looking for in an article, and therefore what you need to be thinking about if you're going to submit to us. And again, you can see the key piece here is in red. It is that we are looking for a significant theoretical or conceptual contribution from articles that are submitted to us. We don't accept purely descriptive reviews. That's not what we're about, and that I'm afraid would get you a desk rejection. You can also see that we are broad-based across management and organisation studies. I think that is one of our key strengths. But as I say, we are looking for submissions that challenge existing theories in the field, shift paradigms, really present a strategic platform, as we call it, for taking the discipline or the subfield forward in new directions, in new ways. However, you do that, and we are interested in both literature reviews and evidence-based synthesis, you need to make sure that there is a substantive review of the literature as the underpinning of the contribution that you're going to make. You would be surprised how many times we still get empirical papers rather than review papers, and unfortunately they get desk rejected because that's not what and who we are, and I'll say a little bit more about that later. So in terms of what makes us distinct, both in terms of what we're proud of and why you should want to publish with us, we are a reviews-based journal. Reviews only, not empirical papers. That is something that is quite unique about us. Also distinct is the fact that we are looking for this novel conceptual contribution, not just purely descriptive reviews. That is not what we are looking for. We do publish on a wide range of topics right across the management discipline. And again, I think that is pretty much unique, but it does mean that we have a very wide range of both authors and readers. We do encourage interdisciplinarity, but that isn't a necessity. You can be coming from one discipline and still get published in the journal. But we are global and pluralist in our mindset and in our reach. So do bear that in mind when you're writing. Hopefully, it's now pretty obvious why that makes IJMR for you, why it's giving you a lot of reasons that you might want to publish with us. We are a great journal. We have a very, very strong impact factor, as you've just seen. We have strong rankings and CABS ratings, and we very much hope that those will increase over time based on the strong fundamentals of what we do within the journal. Our rankings make us the most influential non-US business and management journal. As you can see, we were number 5. We are widely recognized for our quality and for the criticality of the reviews that we published. And as I say, we do look for game-changing, interdisciplinary breakthrough ideas that give you a strong platform for taking your research and your profile forward, but also give us a very strong position within the field. So if you're thinking of submitting to IJMR, we use Manuscript Central. Everything goes through there, and I think that's pretty explanatory when you go to there on our website. But do bear in mind that we have quite a strong desk reject rate. You can see here we have a 4% acceptance rate, which means that in the end 81% are desk rejected. What I'm going to do as we go through this presentation is give you some tips as to how you can be in the 4% rather than the 8%. Something else to bear in mind, we do have quite a strong geographical distribution already, but we would like to enhance and develop that. So if you're from Europe or Asia, great, you're already in a strong position, but do still come to us. If you're from the Americas or Africa or Australia, we have fewer papers from there at the moment, and we would like to see that increase. So if you're from those regions, please do consider us. In terms of specific publication criteria, these are things for you to think about before you submit to us. One of the key things, obviously, is going to be whether the field is sufficiently mature to warrant a literature review. Are there enough papers? Is there enough theory already there to justify what you're planning to do. We don't look for a specific number of papers that you're reviewing. It's much more about whether the thought and the conceptual development within the field is sufficiently secure. Can you differentiate what you're doing from any reviews that have gone before? In a mature field, there will be a number of reviews that have happened already. What are you saying that is different, that is newer, that advances the field? And you need to be quite explicit in setting that out in your review. Is your review up to date? We get a lot of doctoral students or recently graduated doctoral students who publish reviews with us, and clearly that's a very good place for you to be. But if you say, you know, completed your PhD 2 or 3 years ago, be aware that you will need to update your review to bring it right up to date. How else can we know that the contribution that you are making is unique and is actually adding to what's already in the field? As I've already said, we're not interested in purely descriptive reviews, so we are looking for reasoned, authoritative conclusions about what's happening in the field and where it might go next. And we're looking for those conclusions to be based on a complete and critical analysis of the literature that you've surveyed. So basically, this all comes down to, does the review make a significant contribution to knowledge? And as you can see here, there are a number of ways that it can do that, and we are open to all of them. Here are some key tips about things that you should do, and there'll also be a couple of tips about things that you shouldn't do. So do explicitly explain how your paper meets the aims of IJMR. How does it advance the debate? How does it depart from or extend or challenge what is already known? Do also make sure that it fits the style and interest and perspective of IJMR readers. Look at our website and our author guidance to help you to do this. And most important of all, as you'll have gathered already, do be really explicit in how it makes a theoretical or conceptual contribution. Make sure that that is clear. Really bang us on the head with it so we can't miss it, and make sure that that is something new. Okay, and as I say, the sentence at the bottom gives you some ideas as to how it might be new, the directions in which it might contribute. Some of those contributions will be completely radical. Some of them might be incremental, but they will still be new and they will still be substantive. A few more tips here. Do set out a specific methodology. Do actually tell us systematically how you have gone about your review. Make sure that you create a narrative that is strong and compelling and that is conceptual as well as descriptive. And something that really helps, obvious as it might seem, is a good relevant title. Make sure it's attention grabbing and also searchable so that people looking for a review around your topic area can clearly know this is what your paper is about. And I keep coming back to it, this novel conceptual contribution is absolutely fundamental. Some common reasons for rejection, and hence some major don'ts. I know this sounds obvious, but read the submission guidelines. The number of times that we reject papers because they are empirical, because people haven't read the guidelines that say we are a review journal. So please, please, please do read those submission guidelines. Sometimes people do try and create reviews around areas that aren't really mature enough and there isn't really enough material for them to present an in-depth review. If that's the case, think about how you might broaden the field, where you might connect it in order to make something that is that does warrant a full review. Make sure that your argument, your contribution is clear. If we, the reviewers or the editors, can't follow it, then your readers won't be able to either, if it actually gets that far. Make sure that there is a sufficient focus on theory in what you're writing, that it's not just descriptive, that it's not even just synthesizing, that it is really creating a theoretical contribution. Sometimes the opposite of something being too narrow and too small is that people go too broad and they try and fight too many battles. Keep it focused, keep it not narrow, but a clear remit, a clear delineation around what you are doing. And make sure that you do what you say you're going to do. Does it actually deliver what you say it's going to deliver? And does it deliver on the remit of our journal? Make sure that it has an academic writing style. We're not looking for opinion pieces. We're not looking for practitioner pieces. We are an academic journal, and we need your writing style to reflect that. And finally, and again, this should be obvious, make sure that it's had a thorough proofread, that you've removed any grammatical errors, any aspects of presentation that aren't going to be clear, any typos, and that your referencing is accurate. Doubly important in a review-based journal, but we still often get errors or omissions around the presentation and the referencing. This looks a bit complicated, but it's actually not. This is just the review system that we go through. You can see the various people involved, from the managing editor to the associate editors to the reviewers and so on. I think the key thing to bear in mind here is that we have 3 reviewers. So that gives us a really, really solid foundation for the feedback that we're giving you and for the decisions that we're making. Also bear in mind that you will usually get a steer from the associate editor assigned to your paper in terms of how to interpret the reviews and where to put the most emphasis in how you're responding to them. When you submit, you are invited, if you wish to do so, to suggest reviewers, to recommend people who might be good reviewers for your paper. Please do bear in mind that while obviously they need to be knowledgeable in your topic area, they also need to be independent of you. So people that you have recently written with, people within your institution, we are unlikely to choose those people as reviewers. So do bear that in mind in any recommendations that you're making. The next thing to bear in mind is if you get a revise and resubmit, that is really good news. Don't forget we have an 80% reject rate. So if you get to revise and resubmit, that is a huge success and you should congratulate yourself. It doesn't guarantee that your paper will still be rejected. So you do still need to really think about how you respond to the feedback that you've been given. We don't have a set number of revise and resubmit rounds. We don't have a set period of time within which we will accept or reject. We work with you to go through a substantive and supportive process to try and get your paper over that finishing line. But that does mean that you need to be really diligent in carefully crafting your response to what the reviewers have said. There will be major issues. There will be significant issues that you need to respond to. Some of these will be absolute make or break. Some of them are not quite so make or break, but you still need to respond to them. And if you're not actually going to implement them in your review, then you need to say why. You will usually get a steer from the associate editor who has been assigned to you. If for any reason what comes back to you is not clear, it is okay to go back to the associate editor and say, I'm not really clear what's being asked of me here. Can you clarify? Things that come under the category of other issues, but are still important, and I've talked about these already, are things like clear language, good grammar, and making sure that your reference list is complete. A few more kind of guidance rules, if you like, in responding to reviewers. If you're dealing with major issues, if we've said that this is requiring major amendment, then it's not just a tick box, it's not just mechanically responding to what the reviewers have said. It is likely to require some major rethinking or reframing of what you're doing. It might require refocusing. It will almost definitely require you to be clearer and sharper around the narrative, around the contribution that you're making. And it will need to go right the way through from start to finish. It's not just put in a paragraph here, change a few words there. If it's minor revisions, clearly they are more minor, but you will still need to take a thoughtful approach in responding to them and thinking about how it might impact throughout the whole of your paper. The key message here, I think, is that if we, the reviewers or the associate editors, aren't getting what you're trying to say, then the readers almost certainly won't. So the onus is on you as the author trying to communicate something to us to make sure that we can understand it. Okay, so it's no good saying, well, I said that clearly, because If we don't get it, it isn't clear. So you need to make it clear for us. And that means that both in your amendments to the paper and in your covering letter, please explain really clearly what you've done and how that is a response to what you've been asked to do. Do also bear in mind that even once the paper has been completely through the review process, either the associate editor or we as the editors-in-chief might still ask for some changes before we publish. And again, please don't view that as a negative. That is us trying to do everything we can to help you to make your paper publishable, to help you get your message across. On to more general issues now. In this case, special issues. We do publish special issues where a whole issue is around a particular topic area. And we have a call each year where we ask you for proposals for special issues, and then we pick one or two that then go forward. If you want to look at or consider that type of issue, a recent one that's come out in July is on philanthropy, and we've got two that have calls for papers out at the moment, and you can see the two listed there. One of them, by the time you're looking at this, will probably, it will be too late to express interest, but it does give you a flavour of the sorts of things that we're doing and the ways in which you might want to contribute to the journal. Also bear in mind that there is the potential for gold open access if you are a UK-based researcher. So do look at our website to see whether your institution is participating in that, and therefore whether that's something that you might want to consider. Finally, here are some of the places that you can find us. So I hope you found this useful, and I look forward to seeing you at the BAM conference, and hopefully maybe having one of your manuscripts pass across my desk fairly soon. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Sarah Robinson. I'm Professor in Management and Organisation Studies, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief of the European Management Journal, EMJ, which I'm going to present to you today. So EMJ is a joint venture between ESCP Europe and the University of Glasgow, and we rotate the editor-in-chief role accordingly. The managing editor is Joanna Duncan. EMJ is 40 years old this year and is going from strength to strength. Its impact factor is 6.11, and we're very proud that we have achieved this. Accordingly, the submissions rate has also increased, and last year we got over 1,000 submissions. This means that our rejection rate is around 91%, with an acceptance rate of around 8.6%. However, we try to keep our review speed pretty quick. So I look at all incoming papers and try to make a decision whether to desk reject them or to send them out to an associate editor, who then sends them out to review within a week. So the first decision, if the paper is sent out to review, we hope comes in within about 16 weeks, with a final decision within around 33 weeks. So EMJ is a broad brush management journal. Just to give you an idea here, you will see that we have specialist associate editors in all the main management areas, from marketing to business ethics to organizational behavior to human resource management and to accounting and finance, and all points in between. So we publish any paper that is in a topic within the broad business and management area, and we publish papers that make a substantial theoretical contribution to knowledge, and that is very important. All our papers need to make a substantial theoretical contribution. We publish original, innovative, empirical research. We also publish theoretical, methodological and review papers. Our papers need to be generalizable to different contexts. So, for example, as the European Management Journal, we do publish papers on Europe, but we expect them to be generalizable to business and management within different parts of the world. And We also welcome papers from different parts of the world, but that have some generalizability to management, organization, business within Europe. Okay, we like papers that are of interest to a range of management disciplines, and so not too narrow in their focus or in their research questions. And we like papers that are accessible and interesting to non-specialists and also to practitioners. So we like papers that are quite clear in their language and not heavily jargon ridden, and also using a lot of technical terms and overly academic language. We welcome papers from all parts of the world and that are about all parts of the world, and we welcome authors at any stage in their careers. All methodologies are also welcome. We publish qualitative and quantitative papers as well as mixed methods papers. As part of our 40th year celebration, we asked associate editors from all the different topic areas to make some little videos about what sort of papers they would like to see in their topic areas. So you will find these on the EMJ website. So please have a look at these if you're thinking of preparing a paper for EMJ. As I said, we also support early career authors. So we also asked the associate editors to give some advice on what they think makes a successful submission in their subject area, and to give a single piece of advice on the publishing process. In addition to that, you will also find on our website some best practice videos by associate editors and former editors, which are intended to support prospective authors in terms of understanding what EMJ is about, on how to avoid desk rejections, on what European means in terms of the European Management Journal, and so on. So, please also, if you have any questions about whether your paper is suitable or not for EMJ, please contact myself or my co-editor Maral, and we will be delighted to answer your questions. Also, please follow us on LinkedIn and Twitter, and we look forward to receiving your best papers. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Paul Hibberts. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Academy of Management Learning Education, and I'd like to take a few minutes to tell you about our journal. We are focused on enhancing the theoretical understandings inform our practice in the field of management learning education. Now, that involves articles that contribute to theory development or to theoretical debates in particular ways, either focused on management learning education, and that can be in all settings, whether it's from first degrees, doctoral education, or through to executive development and leadership development in organizations, or the study of the business of business schools, including the careers of those of us who work within them, and the way in which management educators themselves are developed in these contexts. We're interested in theoretical debates because we see that as the strongest way to inform practice rather than just being an arbitrary requirement. And we work together as a collaborative team involving all of the colleagues you see here on this slide, who are based in institutions around the world, in more places than you can see there, because many of us have connections to more than one institution, and so we have coverage, for example, in China, South America, Australia, New Zealand too, from the list of people you see here, all of which I'm very privileged to work with, not least of all Stacey Victor, our managing editor, who keeps the show on the road, a great team. That team has specializations that can cover the full range of disciplines that contribute to the field of management learning education, and allows us to develop articles of various kinds. In the way we develop our work, we're trying to achieve certain kinds of quality marks. I mentioned these things here just for your kind of peace of mind, I suppose, that it's a highly recognized journal, and your work here will have status in the field more generally. But more realistically, we're interested in making sure we contribute to the field based on the particular quality of your work rather than achieving an arbitrary standard. And we do that through several article types. The main types of articles that we see most of are research and review papers. These add to a theory conversation, and that may be based on conceptual work, empirical studies, or analytical literature reviews that add something more to the questions we're asking in the field. And they can be developed in a range of ways. We're open to disciplinary approaches from a wide spectrum. Maybe you're coming from classic management and organizational studies, maybe you're coming from an economic perspective, maybe psychology, sociology. As long as it's something that's developed in its relevance to our field and our conversations that you see in the journal, that's fine. And also we're open to methods of a wide variety of types. Anything within the spectrum of qualitative and quantitative methods is fine with us, provided it's done well. So you can do structural equation modeling, you can do orthoethnography, provided you do that to the highest standards expected of those approaches. And overall, your article must contribute to theory and practice. And for us, the contribution to practice comes by way of that theoretical contribution, because we believe that allows you to develop insights for practice that are more generalizable and more translatable to a variety of contexts. So it's a good way of going about things. We also have a section that covers essays, and I advise you to look at editorials from myself and Russ Vince, or from Dirk Lindenbaum and April Wright more recently, that give strong advice about the ways in which you can think about and construct these particular kinds of contribution. But typically an essay will combine theory and informed opinion to generate a call to action. Often we see a balance of provocation and prescription in these kinds of contribution. It's important there is both of these elements, though, of theory and opinion. If it's just theory, it's a conceptual paper and you should develop it as such. If it's just opinion, then it's a rant, and there's somewhere else you can go to share your rants, but maybe it's not for a journal article. So make sure the balance is there. You're using the theory to make a persuasive and provocative argument that leads to action we should take. Things we should do differently in the field should flow from your provocation. If you'd like some more information about the way of constructing these kinds of contribution, I advise you to contact Dirk Lindenbaum for some more information. The other kinds of contributions we see a lot of interesting work in is resource reviews. These are not peer-reviewed, but they're guided and reviewed and carefully controlled by an editor, of whom more later. These can be reviews of resources of all kinds. You may include typically books. We see most reviews about books. There could be simulations that are used in educational contexts in management, or video collections, or other kinds of resources that are relevant to management learning and education. We've also featured comparative book reviews where we've had two contrasting reviews of a particular text, so we can set up some kind of debate and conversation about what's going on in a particular text. As I mentioned, you get some more information by contacting the editor who's in charge of this section. That's Megan Gerhardt, and she'd be pleased to entertain your conversation. But for all of these kinds of contributions and articles that we have in the journal, do please look at the resources online first before approaching editors, because it's sometimes a bit of a shame when people are answering very basic questions that you can see there presented on the website for your help and guidance. But we're very happy, though, to entertain your queries and discussions. We do have other examples of contribution you'll see less often. These are two kinds discussed here, the first of which is dialogues. These are responses to published essays or research articles, typically recent ones, where you feel you have something to contribute that takes the conversation further. So these will be more than a rejoinder or an argument that says that the author was wrong. That's not so interesting. There'll be an argument that says, yes, but, that takes the conversation a little bit further, shows us some other area of application, some new theoretical twist that will add to that conversation. So they make a further contribution to theory debates rather than just trying to refute or contradict earlier work. Because this is a tricky thing to do in what's typically a short contribution of 15 pages or less in the submission format, I advise you to discuss those with me before you complete your writing and set your time to really focus on that, because it's so difficult to get those things exactly right. I wouldn't want you to make bad use of your time. So have a conversation with me, initially by email, if you're thinking about doing this kind of work and about making this kind of contribution. I'll be happy to guide you and have a conversation with you about that. You'll also see exemplary contributions in the journal. These are invited articles from leading scholars on important issue debates. They're still peer-reviewed, but we encourage the authors to take a position and give us some kind of guideposts to help shape our thinking And they're typically really interesting pieces, and I advise you to watch out for those whenever you see them coming forward in the journal. Well, that's taking you through what we do and the major kinds of contribution. I look forward to having further conversations with you in the future that can take us into more details about our journal and the key criteria of research papers and essays when we have the chance to have a conversation together in discussion forum. So thank you for your attention so far. I look forward to conversations with you in the future.
Hi, I'm Caroline Gattrell. I'm one of the general editors at the Journal of Management Studies. I'm going to talk today about how to get published in JMS, and I'll begin by sharing my slides with you. So the topics I will cover are who we are at JMS, the aims and scope of the journal. I'm going to talk about two types of papers, regular papers and literature reviews, and finish with some handy tips. So who are we? JMS was established in 1963, so it's a long-standing management journal to publish original, innovative and high-quality papers that advance conceptual and empirical knowledge and address practice in the area of management and organisation. It's a very theoretical journal, and I think those aims have remained very similar over the years. We're quite a big team, 3 general editors, 10 associate editors, and we have a dedicated editorial office, which is led by Margaret Turner and based in Durham. We've got a big editorial board, over 200 academics covering all areas of expertise, especially in IB strategy, entrepreneurship, OT, CMS and HRM. But we are open to and welcome a wide range of topics in terms of papers submitted to our journal. And that's just us, the editorial team. We are ranked highly. We have an impact factor of 7.3. We've been on the FT 50 list since 2010, and we're a category 4 on the Academic Journal Guide. So our aims and scope, which I've kind of covered already, are really looking for innovative material that has a strong theoretical contribution. We look for unusual, surprising, quirky or challenging papers, and we don't give any preference to a particular topic or method. We're looking for papers that speak to our readership, which means that it's good to be familiar with the journal before you submit, and we're looking for a strong theoretical orientation in papers. So I'm going to talk about 2 types of articles. I'm going to focus on regular articles, which might be submitted on an ad hoc basis, maybe to a special issue, can be empirical or conceptual, and review articles, where we're looking for an overview of a particular area of literature with implications for future research. So, in terms of a regular article, whether it's ad hoc or whether it's aimed at a special issue, what do we look for? Well, number 1, I think, is pay particular attention to the author guidelines and read the journal. Have other people published in JMS on your topic area? If they have, it's really important to engage with these papers, to look at how what you're doing builds on and extends what's already been done. If you like, joining a conversation, a debate. Make sure the paper delivers on its promises. Does it fulfill its aims? It's not uncommon to receive a paper that promises to do something in the abstract and the introduction, and then kind of moves to a different area and ends with something completely different. So the paper doesn't really read as a story or a narrative. It's really important that a paper would give a thorough overview of the relevant literatures and link the study to these. That enables the author to say how the paper is moving on the field, where it might align with what's been done before, and where it's different. That helps the author and the readers mark out what's original about the paper. It's important to demonstrate methodological rigor. We want to know how you did things and why you did things, perhaps, for example, looking at your ethical processes. And it's important to aim the paper at a general management studies audience. We have a general readership, so it's important to make a convincing case for why your arguments are relevant for a wide readership beyond just the people who are engaged in and involved with your particular subject area. Important to ensure your theoretical contribution is clear. By that, I mean really spell it out quite precisely. It's not easy to do that, I recognise, and it might be helpful if you get colleagues to give a friendly review so that they can give you feedback on whether it's clear. But it's important for JMS to be really precise about what the contribution is and where it lies. So, seek friendly reviews before submission. And on that note, that's also helpful in giving you feedback before you submit the paper about whether your paper is lively and interesting, because it's much more likely that a paper that's lively and interesting to a wide range of readers will make it through than one is quite competent but a bit dull. And finally, check your spelling and grammar. It's not uncommon to have papers come through that are really quite badly spelt, and that makes it difficult for the editor to send it forward to reviewers. So why do regular articles not make it past the editor's desk? In a way, we're looking at the reverse reasons from those I've just discussed. Lack of a clear, significant and interesting contribution. It's just not clear what it is the paper's doing. The methods section might be a bit hasty, a bit quick, and it's not clear why you chose your sample, where they came from, what your ethical stance was, or how you analysed the data. That's really important to get that right before the paper comes in. Lack of a clear and appropriate theoretical framework. If you're using, for example, a grand theorist, why did you choose them? How are you using their views as a lens to shed light on the field? You might want to actually diagramize that, and it's helpful to be really clear about that so that the reader knows exactly what it is you're doing. It's helpful in JMS papers to give some clear implications for management practice. That's not at the core of the paper. We're a theoretical journal, but we would like to know what the impact is likely to be of your research on practice and policy. And most important, we want to know what are the clear implications for management theory. If that's missing, it's unlikely really, unless we can see how that can be developed, that the paper will go through, because the implications for management theory, how your paper moves forward the field, makes scholars think differently about their research, that's a key component for a JMS paper. It's not uncommon that authors haven't read the guidelines or probably the journal. In a way, that tends to align with people who have had a paper rejected elsewhere and they just tidy it up and send it to JMS. It's really worth spending the time reading carefully the guidelines. So, for example, we have quite a generous word limit. So if your paper is only 6,000 words, you've missed an opportunity there to really engage with talking about your theoretical contribution. And people who read the guidelines would know that. It would be rejected if authors haven't linked their research to management and organisation theory. How does the paper move forward the field? And also, if it's very specialist, it's unclear why broadly readers of JMS would be interested in the arguments made within the paper. It's not enough simply to engage with the particular group of people who are interested in your topic area. And the final reason, the presentation of the paper is sometimes very messy. Papers that come through with comments in the margins and cut and pastes and so on are unlikely to be sent out for review, because it's not fair on the reviewers to send them a paper that isn't neat and tidy looking and is difficult to read from the start. So that's general papers. I'm now going to move on to look at what JMS is seeking in a review paper. The kind of contribution that we're looking for is very similar to that in a regular paper. Really, a paper that's innovative and that moves forward thinking, that makes a contribution to theory. In the same way, we're looking for papers that are unusual, quirky, or challenging. No preference is given to a particular topic, but we do look for papers that speak to a general readership. So if you're reviewing a very narrow subject area, you need to make the argument that this is important for management studies more broadly. And we look for papers with a strong theoretical orientation. So what makes up a good review paper for JMS? Well, at the very basics, it needs to be a state-of-the-art, comprehensive overview of a particular research field. Writers often have a proven track record in the area of concern, and what often works well, if you're an early career researcher or a PhD student, you've probably got the best view of your field than you may have in other points in your career. So it works well if you team up maybe with a supervisor that has more experience of how to craft a paper. So you've got the two gains, the real comprehensive overview of the area with somebody who's got experience in crafting a paper for a prestigious journal. It's important that the review is theoretically driven, and it opens up the area or redirects area for scholarly thinking across management and organisation studies. We would expect a review paper to develop a research agenda and maybe provide a conceptual framework as a guide to future research. Even in a review paper, we would look for a paper that describes with precision what the methodological approach is. This can vary. It might be that it's a narrative review. Perhaps it's a review if you are an experienced writer that you've pulled together over many years. Or it might be a review where you've taken a very systematic approach. Either is acceptable, but we need to know how you made the selection, where you've drawn the boundaries, and how you chose which papers to include and which not. And it needs to describe with precision what are the theoretical implications for research. We're looking for a paper that might provide a strategic platform so that future researchers can use your review paper as a launch pad to build on the field. So why do reviews get rejected? Well, number one is probably that the review lacks a clear, significant, and interesting contribution or framework. It lacks methodological rigor, and perhaps most importantly, it lacks clear implications for management and organisation theory. If you can, it's useful to include a lack of clear implications for management practice. So, for example, if you were doing a review on work and family, we would expect some recommendations for practice and policy. And if they're not there, that could be a reason for rejection. Importantly, a review must be state of the art, by which we mean it should be comprehensive, so that you've really stated what your boundaries are and you've reviewed papers across that field, but it also needs to be up to date. I received quite recently a really interesting paper about management in the 1970s. However, what the authors didn't do was to bring us up to date. So we don't know what contemporary writers think about management in the 1970s. So that one didn't go through. The authors haven't read the guidelines for the journal, or they haven't read the journal itself. There may already be a review of your topic area in our journal. That's not to put you off doing a review of your own. It might be that you see things from a very different perspective than the previous author, but we would expect you to have read the journal and be joining in that conversation. Another reason why a review paper might get rejected is because it's unclear why the general readers of JMS should be interested in what you're saying. The review is underdeveloped, the purpose is unclear, or the presentation of the paper is messy. So I think that the key piece of advice is to really read carefully the journal guidelines. That doesn't matter which journal it is and your chosen journal. And before you submit a paper, get others to offer a friendly review. And as I mentioned, doctoral and postdoctoral students are in a really good position to write reviews, but it's worth seeking an experienced co-author. So to summarise, handy tips, whatever type of paper it is that you're hoping to submit to JMS. Pay attention to the author guidelines and read the journal. Have other people published in your area in JMS. Ensure that the paper delivers on its promises and fulfills its aims. Remember that JMS is aimed at a general management studies audience, so you need to make a convincing case for why your arguments are relevant to a wider audience. Think, how might other people think differently about their research having read your paper? Whether writing a review, a conceptual or an empirical paper, you need to spell out really precisely what is your theoretical contribution. And lively and interesting papers are the ones most likely to make it through. Check your spelling and grammar and seek friendly reviews of your paper so that you can revise it and get it into its best possible shape before you submit it. JMS We'll do a lot to promote your journal, including reporting on social media. And we have a really nice YouTube channel as well, where you can link in to see whether or not there's anything to help you in terms of future publications and future career plans. So it's worth just checking out our YouTube channel. Thank you very much indeed for listening, and I hope to receive submissions from you for JMS in the future. Thank you.